Willkommen bei Ihren, der Gemeinschaft zur Förderung des modernen Realismus. Heute mit der Malerin Helen Cottle. Wir sind eine Gruppe internationaler Künstler, die traditionelle Maltechniken anwendet, um realistische, gegenwartsnahe Gemälde zu kreieren. In diesem Film stellt Graeme Stevenson die Malerin Helen Cottle vor. Helen lebt in Australien, in dem schönen Ort Gisborne nahe Melbourne. Schon in jungen Jahren hat sie mit der Malerei begonnen. Über das Zeichnen kam sie zur Ölmalerei, befasst sich aber heute vornehmlich mit Aquarell- und Acrylmalerei. Helen ist eine für ihre Workshops weithin bekannte Lehrerin der Maltechniken. Im Film demonstriert sie wichtige Teile ihres Könnens. Der Originaltext ist mit deutschen Untertiteln versehen.
G'day viewers, my name's Graeme Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do.
Well, hi folks. Well, we are in Gisborne in Victoria today, and we are at the studio and the gallery of one of the leading women workshop teachers in the country, Helen Cottle. Helen.
How are you, Graeme?
Very, very well, thank you. Welcome to the show. Now, you were one of those young women that was determined to be an artist even at a young age, and it was your grandmother that really sort of pushed you into many, many situations. But what I really like about Helen's story is that you said to yourself, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do. And literally by working with some of the leading people in the country, you are now one of the leading workshop teachers in this country as well. Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yes, very true. Well, it all began early days of drawing, lots of drawing, obsessed with it. My grandmother was very encouraging. She gave me pencils and paper and asked me to draw for her all the time.
Yeah.
I got to a point where she'd challenge me with things and she'd say, can you draw me this, can you draw me that?
Yeah.
And I'd say to her, oh, I'll give it a go. So that was really, really where it kick-started. And then from there, yeah, I just kept on learning and teaching myself.
Yeah.
Went on to high school, went through the art part there, enjoyed that, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I actually wanted to be a vet. I didn't want to be an artist at that point because I thought I can paint. I could draw, not paint, but decided to do the sciences to become a vet.
Yeah.
And the art department decided that that wasn't what I was going to do.
Right.
So that was their encouragement to go down the art side of things.
But you've had, I mean, some of your compatriots these days have become good friends. Rob Wade, Ross Patterson,
Yep.
even Joe's Blumenbild, who's regarded as one of the leading in the world.
Yep.
So you've got some, quite influential people around you these days. But you've obviously earned your stripes as well, by any means.
Oh yeah, well yes, and encouraged and influenced by many of the Australian artists. We've had a great, in Victoria particularly, so many good artists. Always on show, you could go to galleries and exhibitions and see all their work. And yeah, eventually aimed high, aimed at the ones that I thought were great and thought, how did they do that? How did they get there?
Yeah.
And just kept chipping away.
Well, you've become a master in the sense of watercolours, acrylics and obviously oils. But you can go through and see Helen's work on her website, of course, but we'll be showing some of those shots today, which are acrylics and oils and watercolours, just amazing, amazing work. But I'm once again going to step out of the shot and I'll annoy you with a whole bunch of annoying questions for the rest of the day. And because you're such a fantastic teacher, it's going to make my job a lot easier. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Helen, well, you've already prepared the background before we've got here, but you actually have to prepare your palette now as well. So how do we go about that?
Basically, I have a palette which is consisting of, it's just a tray, like a plastic tray. Underneath the top layer is a baking paper, and below that is just some damp sponges or damp paper towel. That way, when I use the paint, I put it on here, I put out the paint I need to use, and it will stay moist for days if I want it to. I've got 2 trays. I can take the bottom tray out when I'm finished for the day. If I want to keep the colours that I've mixed, I will take the bottom off and put it over the top and use it as a lid. And that way the paint doesn't dry out, I'm not wasting any paint, the colours that I've mixed stay as I've mixed them, instead of being, I have to remix a colour that I mixed once before and I can't quite get that colour. So the bulldog clips just hold the paper in place. And when I'm finished for the day, if I don't need the paper anymore or I need to change to freshen up, take it out, screw it up, throw it in the bin. There's no washing the paint down the sink, not making any mess, and you're not wasting any paint really at all. A lot of people end up with it drying up on a dry palette and they can't reuse it. So that's the way that I like to work.
Fantastic.
So I will pop out a few colours. The consistency is fantastic as an acrylic. A lot of acrylics I find are either using a lot of fillers that will reduce the quality of the paint, makes them too thin, and the colour doesn't stay as vibrant. So the colours that I've chosen, well, basically I'm doing a floral painting today. I've got a lot of turquoises and greens, yellows, and there'll be some pinks coming into that as well. And I'll just pop out the colours that I'm using. First off will be a lot of the deeper greens that I need to do the background colour with the leaves.
I think another great part about the hydrocryl paints is that they're non-toxic, so obviously people do have allergies, but they've got no cadmium or cobalt or lead in them at all. No,
that's right.
So you're not going to have to worry about allergies or making yourself sick.
That's one of the main reasons why I use the paint as well, is because I'm a little bit sensitive to chemicals.
Yep.
And with oil paints I had to stop using terps a long time ago and shift over to acrylics, and even now I'm finding this is much better for my health. So I've got a little bit of yellow ochre, yellow oxide, a little bit of yellow, lemon yellow.
Yeah, I mean hydrocryl makes over 40 colours as well, so you've got a really, really wide range of some pretty fantastic products to use.
Yeah, they're great colours. They hold their tone as well, their colour. The hue is quite vibrant, whereas a lot of other acrylic paints that I've used flatten down and dull out. The colours with hydrocryl are really bright, and they maintain that colour throughout. And I might just put out a little bit of transparent red oxide, which is a good colour for killing a green that's can be a little bit artificial. A slight bit of red oxide in it can make it a little bit more earthy. If you notice, I'm scooping my paint out with a palette knife and then I'm wiping off the excess paint on the towel. I really find that a lot of people then put it in their water and rinse it out, and they make too much mud in their water before they've even started painting. So by cleaning it off on this towel, I always have a towel on my palette, on my table, and that way I can keep it always fresh. So basically, I pop the paint around the outside of the palette, and when I mix, I pull the colours together within that mixing area. Again, a lot of students tend to put it here and here and here, and then they run out of space and wonder why they've got no room to mix, and that is why. It's because you just need to be able to grab a little bit, and pull them together.
Yeah, and they maintain the shape as well.
Yeah.
They really do. For some acrylics, they'd be dripping down the page right now.
That's correct. Yeah. They've got a nice viscosity, and if you do want to dilute them a little bit, which I do sometimes to make it thinner, they've got a flow promoter, which is just a liquid, almost like a varnish, and if you pop a bit of this medium out, I often put it in a little container, which I didn't bring out with me, but I'll pop one out later. And there's also a gel gloss medium, which actually helps to dilute the paint but not make it too thin, because too much water can actually dull down and make your paint a little bit cloudy. The painting that I'm going to do today is a floral. It's a nice, loose, abstract type floral painting. A lot of colour, a lot of vibrancy, and a lot of light, which I love to work with in most mediums, but acrylic particularly. What I tend to do is look at the background of the painting first and think about the flowers last. So what I tend to do is think backdrop, medium, middle ground, and then foreground and detail. I work from photographs. They're all my own photographs. I take them all myself. I put them on the computer. I don't play with them. I don't Photoshop or anything. I might crop or zoom, and that's about all I do to change the image. The brushes that I like to use are synthetic hair brushes mainly, square brushes which I can use as a flat surface. I can tip it on its side, it can be a straight line, or if I twist it just slightly, it gives it more of a rounded shape like a filbert. The only hog hair or the only natural fibre brushes that I use are the fan brushes, which are old and mangled, so they're not perfect, but I find for foliage and for even hair on horses and things, these nice rough edges can be used as a tool rather than just a fan brush. Some people use it like a fan, but I use it more on its side and twist the brush as I move. So I'll start off with the fan brush. I've wet them up, I've taken a little bit of the water out. I'm going to mix a mid-tone green. So I've got a little bit of cerulean blue and a little bit of yellow oxide.
So you're basically sort of squinting your eyes, just trying to find the darker areas. Just
some patches and areas there. And I've already built up some lighter tones underneath. So by doing the deeper ones on top, it helps to give that 3D kind of look. So
over the years, you've been doing this for a while, but you teach at Bathurst. I mean, the people that you used to admire are now the ones that you actually teach with. You teach in Bathurst and Cairns and Brisbane and Shepparton, and then you're off to Western Australia. So you've definitely made a mark for yourself in the workshop arena for art in Australia.
Yes, it's been an interesting journey to say the least. I don't think I expected to be teaching all around Australia when I first started teaching, because I didn't really want to teach. I actually thought I couldn't teach because I wasn't trained as a teacher. So I decided that when someone asked me if I could show them what I do, I said yes, I can do that, and that was the beginning of me teaching for the last 25, nearly 30 years.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great journey, it really is.
One thing I do say to my students many times is don't look at the prettiness, look past the prettiness to the guts of the painting, and then come back and put all the fine detail in.
Yeah. Now I know that you've won numerous prizes over the years. I said to you before we started, it's like, well, I don't know, I can't tell you how many there actually is.
No,
but that's a great feather in your cap for doing that. But even when you were a young woman and you'd entered the competition and your mum was with you when you walked in and they congratulated your mum and your mum said, no, it's actually my daughter that's done that.
Yeah, that was quite funny.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, if they sort of said, congratulations, Mrs. Cottle, and she just looked horrified. It's like, it's not me. But no, that was, it was quite interesting. Those early days, I only entered a few local art shows, but I got the idea quickly that if you win a couple of prizes, it makes you quite happy. So
yeah, you don't sort of throw the money away, buy more art materials.
And it was the bonus that you actually won a prize with money. You got a nice little certificate, which I've got a box full in there that I've gathered. As I said, the first show that I went into, I saw a Ross Patterson painting as a prize-winning watercolour, and I was painting in oils at the time, but I looked up and thought, that's where I want to be and that's what I want to be doing. I just wondered how he got there and how he did it. And I had never met Ross at the time, but it encouraged me to strive and work out what it was that gets you through those levels to get to that status. Ross and I teach together in many venues now.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great fun. Okay, I'm about to start to establish some of the flowers. So I'm mixing a couple of different blues and purples to get these delphinium shapes in. Dots and dashes.
Dots and dashes, you reckon?
Dots and dashes. No little fine petals as such. They want some nice big deliberate strokes to make these shapes.
You're just sort of mapping in the guts.
Yep. And I'll do a few. I won't finish one off. I'll just move it across the painting in flow so that everything becomes balanced and has a little bit of harmony.
So you've got one piece called Moonrise Mount Major. I think it's just a beautiful piece of work, and it's the moon rising at the same time that the sun's setting. And you're actually out with some of the guys on a field trip doing that, weren't you?
The actual painting itself I did back in the studio, but we did some plein air studies that particular night, and I was out with a couple of artists and we went up to the top of Mount Major. It was freezing, but it was just perfect conditions. We got what we could do before we lost the light. Going to swap over to establish some of the pink flowers now.
Okay.
So I'm mixing up one of the beautiful colours. It's called Arca Pink.
Yeah, they've got, Hydrocor's got a great range of alizarin and fuchsia colours as well, which are really vibrant when you put them down.
Yeah, they're great colours.
But you can see even with what you've just done with those brush strokes and the colour, the picture's just starting to come together.
Yeah, start to bring some life to a very flat, dull background, but the energy in it is the actual subject of the flowers themselves.
It's sort of, a lot of people do, they look at the flower and try and paint the flower instead of the shape.
Well, they think a flower is, you know, a circle with all these little bits around the outside, but I see the outside shape and work from there. So I'm just building areas, and as I said, I don't finish one particular spot, I'll move around and try and keep a bit of balance there. Now there's no, in the photograph itself, there's no pink in the lower area down here, but I'm actually going to put something in there so that they're not all floating up in the air. We'll just have one little bit that breaks up that shape.
Okay.
Often when I paint florals, I won't do a whole lot of stems and then pop a flower on top. I'll paint the flowers and then weave the stems in between the gaps. I think I might pop out a little bit of turquoise colour now. So it's a series of warm and cool colours really. Even within a blue, it can be a warm blue or a cool blue or a warm mauve or a cool mauve.
Now you did a series of paintings with red umbrellas.
Yeah, I did a lot of paintings with umbrellas, just with people walking along with the umbrellas for a long time. And they're very popular, but I got to a point where I'd painted a lot of umbrellas and I decided that it was time to throw them in the air. So the next series was literally people or a girl throwing the umbrellas and letting it go. Surrendering and changing tact. So it became another theme, which was good fun. It was good fun to do. So I keep reinventing. This girl pops up in the bush, she pops up on top of rocks, she goes to the ocean, she goes to the mountains, and she lets go in every place she goes to, which is good.
She lets go with that umbrella.
Yep, throw it away. So back into my greens. A little bit of the flow medium now to help the paint liquefy a little bit so that we get a nice stroke. I'm actually using a rigger brush now.
That's a big rigger brush.
It is a big rigger brush.
Wow.
It's a nylon one. It's not a hair or a sable, but it allows the paint to flow off the brush nicely. Otherwise, again, they tend to hold on if you're not careful.
So you're just sort of highlighting those areas in there.
Yep, getting a few stems and connecting lines.
Part of the beauty about being an artist, and I agree with this, is the opportunities that you get to go out and take photography as well and look at different people. And there was one that you came across, a gentleman that was a potter. He was a craftsman, and tell us a bit about that.
Yes, I was in a local town, Wood End, taking some photographs of street scenes, and as I walked past this little pottery studio, a fellow jumped out the door and asked me what I was doing, and I said I was taking photographs to paint from. And he said, oh, my mate's an artist, he's a potter, if you'd like to come in and I'm sure he'll pose for you. So I went in and he quite happily just threw half a dozen pots for me, and I just went around, moved around him up and down and around and over, and took all these fabulous shots, and then painted a series of his portraits. I'm going to use some really bright green now, really bright green.
Once again, you're just using the edge of that brush to...
Using the fan brush and just using the edge to establish the shapes that I need.
Yeah, you live in a beautiful area around here. It's very close to the Macedon Ranges.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic. And you've got some beautiful pieces of the Macedon Ranges themselves, which are just fantastic. I mean, you capture your colours just amazingly well.
Very blessed to live in this area. As an artist, when I moved here 30 years ago, I didn't really have an idea of what the art community was like, but literally fell into it. And it served me ever since I started teaching back then, and haven't stopped. All right, let's pick up some highlights on these guys. This is just white with just a little bit of pink in it, and I'll go pure white later on. It's nice, juicy paint. It's great for body. Once my thinner layers that I thin out with the medium, and then push them through, but then when I come towards the end of the painting, I'll allow that thick, chunky, juicy paint to work for me. So now I'm starting to establish some really dark darks. I hesitated to go into them in the beginning because it can make the painting tonally dark overall if you go in too quickly. So as I said earlier, I went with the middle tones up and down. So now I'm going to really whack in some dark accents to push things forward.
Okay. Yeah, part of the theme a lot of as you look at your work, is you're really after that mood or the illusion, the emotion of colours in the evenings or in the mornings as the sun's coming up or going down.
Yes, I do. I do love the seasons and the contrast, the light, particularly low light, evening low light and early morning sunrise. I think your values are just fantastic at those times of the day.
There's another one that they've got here of Bondi Pavilion, and you actually have a friend that has an apartment that looks across Bondi, and you go down there and just hang out every so often. It
was the middle of winter, that particular painting, funnily enough, but the light was low and it just picked up at the time where I could see what was going on. And the painting itself was painted from the balcony of the house or the apartment that I was staying in. Okay, so now back into my finer rigger brush, establishing a few verticals, shapes that are leading the eye around up and above the line of the midline of the painting.
You actually were invited over to the Shanghai Biennale at one stage, and also the Chinese Museum of Watercolour bought one of your pieces for their collection.
They did. I think I was hiding in the wings, I think, and I popped out from nowhere, and I was actually very privileged and honoured to be chosen.
Because the Chinese are fanatic about their watercolours too, aren't they?
Yes, and their work is amazing.
So how would you describe your style?
Realist impressionist. Okay. Being that I like real subjects, I like life and what's going on in life, but I like to give the impression or the feeling at the moment that you're looking into it. So it's capturing a moment and enhancing bits and pieces that you can to make the viewer sort of be touched or be happy to be looking at this painting.
And that play on light is always so important.
Yeah, it is one of the most important things. So at this point, these final little touches are extremely important to make the viewer read through the large shapes down to the small shapes, coming back into looking for things to tease you, to make you look around a bit more, to stay involved in the painting, not to get lost and walk away. So it's keeping you attracted to it. I'm about to get a little bit of deep orange, this is, but it's almost red. It's quite a dark orange, which I really love. And I'm just going to pop a few little tiny dots of that within the painting. So I'm actually using my finger for this. Okay, what I'm about to do is mix up a bit of paint which is going to allow me to flick the paint on, just splat a few random spots here and there. I find that makes you stop being too precious with the painting, and it brings you a bit of an area that you were worried about. Once you get a couple of dots of paint on it, you don't care anymore. It makes it all come together. Okay, so with the brush flicking.
Yep, look at that.
Just a few spots. Now I've got to watch where they land, but even if they land on a spot, like if one covers a bit of a flower, I'm not worried about that. I like the fact that it's random. And I think that might be all we need to do for now. Yep.
Fantastic.
We're done.
Looks amazing. Well, really, really well done. Really well done.
It was good fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had a great day. Really, really great day. Okay, guys, fantastic day. Florals. Really well done. Helen?
Thank you.
Thank you
Enjoyed
very much. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you?
Website, helencottle.com.au.
Absolutely. And if you want to come along and be with one of the best teachers in the country, I mean, you have a great life, don't you?
I do. I do what I love, and I love what I do.
Come in and see us at colorinyourlife.com.au, and of course Facebook and YouTube. But until we see you guys again in this beautiful area down at Gisborne, remember guys, make sure you put some colour in your life and some floral colour in your life. We'll see you again. Bye now. See you guys.
An dieser Stelle möchten wir uns ganz herzlich bei Graeme Stevenson bedanken. Er hat uns dieses Filmmaterial freundlicherweise zur Verfügung gestellt. Wir haben mit ihm verabredet, auch zukünftig einige seiner Produktionen hier in diesem Programm zu präsentieren. Wir werden viele international bekannte Künstler zu sehen bekommen. Wir freuen uns auf diese Zusammenarbeit. Dies bringt uns zum Ende unseres heutigen Programms. In den kommenden Monaten werden wir weitere Folgen mit Malerinnen und Malern aus aller Welt präsentieren. Halten Sie deshalb Ausschau nach ERA, der Association Embracing Realist Art, und besuchen Sie unsere englische Internetseite realist-art.com.